Admiral Vex Prime of the Galactic Enforcement Division stared at the holographic display with what could only be described as absolute disgust. The blue-green planet spinning lazily before him represented everything wrong with the universe, a species so primitively violent that they still engaged in warfare using chemical propulsion and metal projectiles. Humans. The very name tasted bitter in his four-chambered mouth. The status report. Commander Threx, Vex Prime commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered 17 star systems before his morning meal. Commander Threx, a lanky creature with too many eyes and not enough patience, stepped forward. Sir, the human resistance continues to be annoyingly persistent. Our latest bombardment of their major cities has only seemed to make them angrier. Angrier? Vex Prime's tentacles twitched with irritation. They should be surrendering. We have plasma cannons that can melt mountains. We have shields that can deflect their pathetic missiles. How are these hairless primates still fighting? The bridge fell silent except for the gentle hum of the ship's quantum processors. Every crew member knew better than to interrupt when the Admiral was having one of his episodes. Well? Vex Prime's voice rose an octave. Someone explained to me how a species that hasn't even mastered faster than light travel is giving us trouble. Sub-Commander Quillix, the ship's tactical officer, cleared his throat nervously. Sir, perhaps we should consider the depreciation protocol. The entire bridge crew turned to stare at Quillix, as if he had just suggested they surrender to a pack of space hamsters. The depreciation protocol was legendary throughout the galaxy, not for its effectiveness, but for its sheer creative cruelty. The depreciation protocol? Vex Prime's voice dripped with sudden interest. You mean the ancient strategy of giving conquered species completely useless weapons so they think they have a chance while we systematically destroy them? Exactly, sir. It's been used successfully on 43 different worlds. The psychological impact is devastating. They waste time and resources on worthless equipment while we prepare for the final assault. Vex Prime's mandibles clicked together in what passed for a smile among his species. Brilliant. And I know exactly what useless junk we can give them. 3 hours later, in a small resistance bunker beneath the ruins of New Detroit, Colonel Jake Martinez was having the worst day of his military career. Which, considering the alien invasion currently reducing Earth to rubble, was saying something. Sir. Lieutenant Emma Foster burst through the reinforced door, her face flushed with excitement. You need to see this. Unless it's a miracle weapon that can punch through alien shields, I don't want to hear it, Martinez growled, not looking up from his tactical display, showing their dwindling ammunition supplies. Sir, it might be exactly that. The aliens, they're dropping weapons caches all over the planet. Martinez's head snapped up. What? That makes no sense. Why would they arm us? I don't know, sir, but Captain Williams found one of the drop sites about 10 miles north. The weapons are? Well, they're weird. An hour later, Martinez stood in the makeshift armory, staring at the strangest collection of weapons he'd ever seen. They looked like children's toys designed by someone who had never actually seen a weapon before. Bright colors, odd shapes, and what appeared to be instruction manuals written in crayon. This one shoots bubbles, Sergeant Rick Thompson said, holding up a purple device that looked like a cross between a water gun and a disco ball. Actual bubbles. I tested it. And this one makes music, added Corporal Lisa Park, demonstrating a weapon that produced a cheerful melody when fired. It's like a kazoo had a baby with a laser pointer. Martinez picked up what appeared to be the most normal weapon in the bunch, a sleek black device with a comfortable grip. The manual, written in surprisingly good English, read, Quantum Entanglement Disruption Device. Warning, effects may be unpredictable. Side effects include temporal displacement, reality restructuring, and occasional existential crisis. Well, Martinez said with a laugh that bordered on hysteria, at least the aliens have a sense of humor about killing us. Back aboard the command ship, Vex Prime was practically vibrating with glee. How long until the humans realize their new toys are completely useless? Monitoring stations report they've already begun testing the weapons, sir, Threx reported. His initial scans show no energy signatures above level 1. They're essentially firing light shows and sound effects. Perfect. By the time they figure out they've been had, we'll have finished charging our planet cracker weapon. Prepare for Phase 2 of the invasion. Meanwhile, in the bunker, Martinez was discovering that the alien weapons were indeed useless. The bubble gun produced pretty bubbles that popped harmlessly against targets. The music weapon created lovely tunes but wouldn't hurt a fly. And the quantum whatever it was seemed to do absolutely nothing except make a soft humming sound. Sir Thompson said, "I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think we've been pranked by aliens." "No kidding," Martinez replied, then paused. "Wait, Foster, you said these weapons came with instruction manuals?" "Yes, sir. Very detailed ones, actually. Almost like they really wanted us to use them properly." Martinez frowned. In his 20 years of military service, he'd learned that when something seemed too good to be true, it usually was. But when something seemed too stupid to be true, it was often worth a closer look. "Thompson, try the bubble gun on that steel plate over there. But this time, read the manual first." Thompson picked up the colorful instruction booklet. "It says here to adjust the viscosity matrix to setting 7 and oh, this is interesting. It mentions something about molecular cohesion disruption." "Just do it," Martinez ordered. Thompson followed the instructions carefully, adjusted several settings that looked like they belonged on a child's toy, and fired at the steel plate. The bubble that emerged was larger than before, almost perfectly spherical, and when it touched the steel, the plate dissolved. The entire bunker fell silent except for the gentle hissing sound of metal turning into component atoms. "Well," Martinez said after a long moment, "that's not supposed to happen." Across the resistance network, similar discoveries were being made. The music weapon, when properly calibrated according to its manual, could produce sound waves that shattered molecular bonds. The quantum device, after careful adjustment of its seemingly random settings, could phase solid matter out of existence. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the Resistance's chief scientist, was examining the weapons with growing excitement and terror. "Jake, these aren't toys. They're the most advanced weapons I've ever seen. The aliens didn't give us junk, they gave us prototypes." "But why would they do that?" Martinez asked. "Maybe they didn't mean to," Mitchell replied, her eyes gleaming with possibility. "Maybe someone made a mistake. High above Earth, Sub-Commander Quillix was having a very bad day. It had started when he received a priority message from Galactic Command questioning why he had requisitioned advanced prototype weapons for the depreciation protocol. It had gotten worse when he realized he had grabbed the wrong storage containers. And it had become a complete disaster when long-range sensors detected energy signatures that should have been impossible." "Sir," Quilk said, his voice barely above a whisper, "we may have a problem." "What kind of problem?" Vex Prime demanded. "The kind where I accidentally gave the humans our most advanced experimental weapons instead of the useless ones." The bridge was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Or in this case, the sound of an admiral's career ending. "You did what?" Vex Prime's voice could have shattered glass. "Sir, the storage containers were nearly identical. How was I supposed to know that Bay 94 contained prototype quantum disruptors and Bay 95 contained the toy weapons? Because there are signs. Big, bright signs that say danger and experimental, and do not give to primitive species." Down on Earth, the Resistance was quickly learning that their new weapons were far from useless. The bubble gun could dissolve entire buildings. The music weapon could level city blocks with precisely tuned frequencies. And the quantum device, once its operators figured out the correct settings, could make alien ships simply stop existing. "This is Griffin Base to all units," Martinez spoke into his radio. "I don't know what the aliens were thinking, but they just armed us with weapons that make their technology look like stone knives. All units, begin immediate deployment of new equipment." The first alien patrol to encounter the rearmed humans disappeared in a shower of molecular disrupting bubbles. The second patrol was treated to a symphony that turned their vehicles into abstract art. The third patrol simply ceased to exist, leaving behind only confused radio chatter and the faint smell of ozone. "Sir," Threx burst onto the bridge, his multiple eyes wide with panic. "The humans are using the weapons. They're actually using them." "Of course they're using them," Vex Prime snapped. "They're supposed to be useless." "That's just it, sir. They're not useless. They're working. Our ground forces are being decimated." Vex Prime stared at the tactical display in horror. Red dots representing his forces were disappearing at an alarming rate. How is this possible? Those weapons were supposed to be children's toys. "Sir," Quillix said quietly, "I may have made a small error in equipment distribution." The Admiral's tentacles began to turn a dangerous shade of purple. To define small error, "I may have accidentally given them our most advanced prototype weapons instead of the useless ones." For a moment, the only sound on the bridge was the gentle hum of life support systems. Then, Vex Prime began to laugh. Not the pleasant laugh of someone who had heard a good joke, but the unhinged cackle of someone whose sanity had just packed its bags and left for a vacation on a nice quiet planet. "You gave them quantum disruptors," he said, his voice eerily calm. "You gave them molecular dissolution weapons. You gave them reality warping devices." "Yes, sir. And you are. Begim. Wache. And now they're using them against us." "Yes, sir. Eben yeah." "And you thought this was a good idea?" "At the time, sir, I thought they were toys." Vex Prime's laughter stopped abruptly. "Do you know what the punishment is for giving advanced weapons to a primitive species? Court-martial and exile to the frozen moons of despair? That's for minor infractions. For something like this, they feed you to the cosmic horror of infinite regret." Meanwhile, humanity was discovering that they were very good at using alien weapons. Suspiciously good. Almost as if they had been designed specifically for human hands and human minds. "It's like they were made for us," Foster observed, easily operating a weapon that had 12 different settings and a user interface that seemed to respond to her thoughts. "That's because they were," Dr. Mitchell said, studying the technical specifications. "Look at these ergonomic designs. The grip spacing is perfect for human hands. The control interfaces are intuitive for human cognitive patterns. Even the instruction manuals are written in a way that makes sense to us." "But why would aliens design weapons specifically for humans?" Martinez asked. "Maybe they didn't," Mitchell replied thoughtfully. "Maybe these weapons were designed by humans who lived a long time ago. Maybe we're not as primitive as we thought." The battle for Earth was turning into a rout. Alien forces that had seemed invincible hours earlier were now retreating in panic. Their advanced shields were useless against weapons that simply made the shield generators stop existing. Their superior firepower meant nothing when human forces could dissolve their weapons with bubbles. "Sir," Threx reported, his voice shaking, "Ground Commander Zext is requesting immediate evacuation. His forces are down to 30% strength and falling rapidly." "Evacuate them," Vex Prime ordered wearily. "In fact, evacuate everyone. We're pulling back to orbital distance." "Sir, what about the invasion?" "What invasion? We just accidentally gave the humans weapons that make our technology look like it was built by particularly stupid cave dwellers. The invasion is over." "But sir, Galactic Command will want to know why we failed to conquer a primitive world." Vex Prime looked at his subordinate with the expression of someone who had just realized that his career was about to become a cautionary tale told at military academies across the galaxy. "Threx, when you file your report, make sure you emphasize that this was Quillix's fault. Also remind them that the depreciation protocol clearly states that weapons should be confirmed as useless before distribution. And if they ask why we didn't double-check, tell them we were overconfident. It happens to the best of us." Down on Earth, the Resistance was watching alien ships withdraw with a mixture of elation and confusion. Are they leaving? Thompson asked, not quite believing what he was seeing. Looks like it, Martinez replied, though I have no idea why. We've barely scratched their main fleet. Maybe they're planning something bigger, Foster suggested. Or maybe, Dr. Mitchell said with a smile, they just realized they made a very big mistake. As the alien fleet disappeared into the depths of space, humanity began to examine their unexpected gifts more closely. The weapons were not just powerful, they were revolutionary. The technology contained within them was centuries ahead of anything Earth had produced, yet somehow perfectly adapted for human use. Jake, Mitchell said, her voice filled with wonder. I think we need to reconsider everything we thought we knew about human history. What do you mean? These weapons aren't just advanced. No, they're familiar. Like we've seen this technology before, used it before. What if humans didn't evolve on Earth? What if we came from somewhere else, and these weapons are reminders of what we once were? Martinez stared at the quantum device in his hands, suddenly seeing it not as an alien gift, but as a homecoming present from a past he had never known existed. You're saying we're not from Earth? I'm saying maybe we're not as primitive as everyone thinks. Maybe we're just humans who forgot how to be human. The implications were staggering. If humanity had once possessed such advanced technology, what had happened to it? Why were they living on a single world, fighting with chemical weapons and metal projectiles? And more importantly, what else had they forgotten? Well, Martinez said finally, I guess we have some research to do. Jake, I don't think research is going to be enough. If these weapons are any indication, we're going to need to completely rewrite human history. As the last of the alien ships disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with them the most humiliated invasion force in galactic history, humanity began to realize that the failed invasion had given them something far more valuable than victory. It had given them a glimpse of who they really were, and who they might become again. 3 weeks after the Great Alien Retreat, as historians were already calling it, the world had changed in ways nobody could have predicted. The weapons that had saved humanity were now being reverse-engineered by the brightest minds on Earth, and what they were finding challenged everything they thought they knew about human civilization. Dr. Sarah Mitchell stood in the newly constructed research facility in Colorado, formerly a military bunker, now humanity's first xenotechnology laboratory. The quantum device that had started it all sat disassembled on her workbench, its components spread out like the pieces of the universe's most complex puzzle. Jake, you need to see this, she called to Colonel Martinez, who was reviewing reports from similar facilities around the globe. Please tell me it's good news, Martinez replied, walking over to her station. Because I just got word that the Chinese team found something in their weapons that's giving everyone nightmares. Oh, this is definitely nightmare material, Mitchell said cheerfully. But the good kind of nightmare. The kind that makes you question reality. She pointed to a small crystalline component that pulsed with soft blue light. This is the core processing unit. It's not just quantum technology, Jake. It's biological quantum technology. And the biological part? It's human DNA. Martinez stared at the component, as if it might suddenly sprout legs and dance. Human DNA? That's impossible. We just got these weapons 3 weeks ago. That's what I thought too. But look at this. Mitchell pulled up a holographic display showing complex genetic sequences. This DNA isn't from any human alive today. It's older. Much older. And it's been modified in ways that shouldn't be possible with current technology. How much older? Carbon dating suggests around 50,000 years. Or take a few millennia. Martinez felt his worldview crumble and rebuild itself in the space of a heartbeat. You're telling me that humans had this technology 50,000 years ago? I'm telling you that someone with human DNA had this technology 50,000 years ago. Whether they were our ancestors or, she paused, clearly wrestling with the implications, or whether we're their descendants is still up for debate. Across the facility, other research teams were making equally disturbing discoveries. The bubble weapon's core contained microscopic engravings in a language that looked suspiciously like ancient Sumerian, if ancient Sumerian had been written by people who understood quantum mechanics. The music weapon's harmonic resonators were tuned to frequencies that matched human brainwave patterns with impossible precision. Dr. Mitchell, called out Dr. James Wright from the linguistics team, we've translated another section of the weapon documentation. You're not going to like this. Hit me with it, Mitchell replied, already bracing herself for more impossible revelations. The instruction manual for the quantum device contains a message. It says, "To our children who forgot the stars, remember that home is not a place but a people. The guardians sleep, but they will wake when the family is threatened." The laboratory fell silent, except for the hum of alien technology being dissected by human hands. "Guardians?" Martinez asked quietly. "That's not the best part," Wright continued. "The message is signed. It's signed by someone calling themselves the first captain of the Terran Stellar Navy." "The what now?" "Terran Stellar Navy. Earth's Space Navy, which according to our history books, doesn't exist." Meanwhile, in the depths of space, Admiral Vex Prime was having a very different kind of revelation. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Enforcement Division had been called to address what military historians were already calling the most catastrophic intelligence failure in galactic history. "Let me understand this correctly," said Supreme Admiral Crex 9, his voice carrying the weight of someone who had conquered entire star systems before breakfast. "You invaded a primitive world, got your rear ends handed to you by bubble guns, and now you're telling us that this primitive world might not be primitive?" "Sir, with respect, the evidence is mounting that Earth may be a forgotten colony world," Vex Prime replied, trying to salvage what was left of his career. "Our xenoarchaeology teams have found traces of advanced technology dating back tens of thousands of years." "Forgotten colony world?" Crex 9's tentacles writhed with what might have been amusement or rage. "None of whom?" "That's the problem, sir. We don't know. The technology doesn't match any known galactic civilization. It's completely unique." Sub-Commander Quillix, who had been quietly hoping everyone would forget about his role in the disaster, suddenly spoke up. "Sir, what if it's not a colony world? What if it's something else entirely? Such as? Materias. What if Earth is a quarantine world, a place where dangerous beings were contained?" The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. If Earth was a quarantine world, then the Galactic Enforcement Division had just released whatever had been contained there. And based on how quickly the humans had adapted to advanced weapons, whatever had been contained there was very dangerous indeed. "Sir," Threx said nervously, "long-range sensors are detecting unusual energy signatures from the Earth system. Multiple sources, all previously inactive." "Just define unusual," Crex 9 commanded. "Sir, they appear to be massive artificial structures powering up after extended dormancy, but the energy output is concerning." Back on Earth, humanity was discovering that their planet held more secrets than they had ever imagined. The weapons had somehow activated dormant systems buried deep beneath the surface, systems that were now coming online after millennia of slumber. "Jake, we have a problem," Mitchell announced, her voice tight with barely controlled excitement and terror. "The quantum resonance from the weapons has triggered something big. Really big." "How big are we talking?" Martinez asked, though he was beginning to suspect he didn't want to know. "Antarctica-sized big. There's a massive structure under the ice sheet, and it's waking up." Before Martinez could respond, every screen in the facility lit up with the same image, a holographic projection of a woman who looked remarkably human, except for eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of stars. "Greetings, children of Terra," the projection said, her voice carrying across every communication system on the planet simultaneously. "I am Captain Elena Vasquez, first of the Terran Stellar Navy, guardian of the sleeping fleet. You have awakened us with the old songs and we have heard your call." The world stopped. Every television, every radio, every communication device on Earth carried the same message. In the space of a heartbeat, humanity learned that they were not alone on their own planet. The weapons you have found are keys, Captain Vasquez continued. Keys to remember what you were before the Great Forgetting. Your ancestors chose to sleep, to let their children grow without the burden of the old wars. But the children are threatened, and the Guardians wake. In the research facility, Martinez stared at the hologram with growing understanding. We're not the first humans on Earth. No, the captain replied, somehow hearing him across impossible distances. But you are the children of the first humans. The ones who chose to start over, to build a new civilization without the weapons that nearly destroyed the galaxy. What weapons? Mitchell asked. Captain Vasquez smiled, and it was not entirely reassuring. Dr. Mitchell, your species has a talent for warfare that terrifies even us. The weapons you have rediscovered are children's toys compared to what your ancestors built. We put ourselves to sleep to prevent their use, hoping that time would teach wisdom. And now? Shogun. Now external threats have forced our awakening. The Galactic Enforcement Division is not the true danger. They are merely the advanced scouts of something far worse. In space, Admiral Vex Prime was learning exactly what far worse meant. His sensors had detected massive energy signatures moving through hyperspace, converging on the Earth system. Ships that dwarfed his own fleet, carrying weapons that made his plasma cannons look like flashlights. Sir Threx reported, his voice shaking, we're receiving a transmission from the approaching fleet. They're identifying themselves as the Void Hunters. Vex Prime's blood turned to ice. Every child in the galaxy knew stories of the Void Hunters, the ancient enemy that had driven countless civilizations to extinction. They were supposed to be myths, legends told to frighten young cadets. Put them on screen, he ordered. The image that appeared made every being on the bridge instinctively step backward. The Void Hunter was a creature of nightmare, all sharp angles and hungry darkness, with eyes that seemed to devour light itself. Small fleet, the creature spoke, its voice like grinding metal, you have awakened the sleepers. This is fortunate. We had lost their scent millennia ago. What do you want? Vex Prime managed to ask, what we have always wanted. To finish what we started. To complete the harvest of the species that dared to resist us. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Vex Prime realized with growing horror that his botched invasion had not only failed to conquer Earth, but had awakened something that might destroy the entire galaxy. On Earth, Captain Vasquez was explaining the situation to a world that was rapidly running out of impossible things to accept. The Void Hunters are drawn to advanced technology, she said. They consume civilizations that grow too powerful, too quickly. Your ancestors fought them to a standstill 50,000 years ago, at the cost of most of human civilization. And now they're coming back? Martinez asked. I never left. They have been waiting, searching for any sign that we had survived. Your use of the weapons has given them that sign. So this is our fault? No, Colonel Martinez. This is war. And war was inevitable. The question is whether humanity will face it as scattered children, or as the unified species your ancestors were. Around the world, massive structures were rising from the depths of oceans, breaking through mountain ranges, and emerging from desert sands. Ships that had slept for millennia were stretching mechanical limbs and powering up weapon systems that had been designed to fight gods. How many ships do we have? Mitchell asked. 12,000 active vessels in the sleeping fleet, Captain Vasquez replied. Crews of volunteers from the Guardian population, plus space for 10 million humans who wish to remember their heritage. And the Void Hunters? Unknown. When we last fought them, they had consumed 17 galaxy clusters. They may have grown stronger. The impossible was happening. Earth was revealing itself to be not a backwater world, but a fortress that had been waiting for the right moment to wake up. And that moment was now. What do you need from us? Martinez asked. Choose, Colonel. Choose whether humanity will remain on Earth and hope the Void Hunters pass by, or whether they will reclaim their birthright as the species that once held the line against the darkness. The choice was made not by governments or military leaders, but by ordinary people who had spent 3 weeks learning to use weapons that could reshape reality. They had tasted what it meant to be more than human, and they wanted more. Within hours, volunteers were boarding ships that had been waiting in the depths of space since before recorded history. The sleeping fleet was waking up, and with it, humanity was remembering what it meant to be the species that had once made the Void Hunters retreat. Admiral Vex Prime watched the Earth system transform before his eyes. Ships that had seemed like small planets were revealed to be massive battle stations. Weapons that could crack moons were powering up. And at the center of it all, Earth itself was changing, revealing itself to be not a planet but a command center for a war that had been paused, not ended. "Sir," Threx whispered, "what have we done?" "We've awakened something that was sleeping for good reason," Vex Prime replied. "And now we're all going to find out why it was sleeping." The Void Hunters were coming, drawn by the scent of awakened technology. But they would not find the scattered, primitive species they had been hunting. They would find humanity as it was meant to be, armed, angry, and absolutely done with being pushed around. The war that had been postponed for 50,000 years was about to begin again. And this time, humanity intended to finish it. As the first Void Hunter ships entered the Earth system, they were met not by a primitive world, but by the reconstituted Terran Stellar Navy, with weapons that had been designed specifically to kill things that should not be able to die. The bubble guns had been just the beginning. Captain Vasquez stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the approaching enemy with eyes that had seen this battle before. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "All ships, prepare for engagement. Remember, we are not fighting for Earth. We are fighting for the right of life to exist in a universe that the Void Hunters would make empty." But the battle for the future of the galaxy was about to begin. And thanks to one alien's mistake with weapon storage, humanity was ready. The Void Hunters were about to learn why the rest of the galaxy had once feared humans more than they feared the darkness between stars. This was going to be interesting.